From Studio A in sunny Florida, welcome to Beauty and the Beach Radio, where it's all about who's beautifying Vero Beach. Today's show is brought to you by Dale Sorensen Real Estate. And here's your host and glamour girl, makeup artist, Cindy Goetz.
Hey guys, welcome back to Beauty and the Beach Radio. We're so glad you're here. Unfortunately, the other side of the state had a lot going on with the storm, so our prayers go out to them. We were so lucky here and so blessed. So for those of you living on the west coast of Florida, our prayers do go out to you. You guys, thanks for being here, and I am so excited. I have a first-time guest on Beauty and the Beach Radio. We know a lot of the same people, but we've never met. She's just written a book that's getting a lot of attention, you guys. I'm thrilled to talk about it today. She is local. She lives right here, and she's a wife. She is a mom, and she is an author. This is her third book she's written. And my goodness, you can find it on Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon's even listed it in the 100 bestsellers in the ebooks category. It is an autobiography, has vibes of a Huckleberry Finn, and you guys, there's even a musical that's going to be coming out based on this book. So a lot of attention's being drawn to this. I am so excited to bring to Beauty and the Beach Radio author Lee McCaskill.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome. So Lee, and looking at this book that you wrote, I am so drawn in. The research I did on it, I was just amazed at. And I just want to read a few of the reviews and some of the things that people said. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. So we're talking about, I'm going to hold this up. We're talking about her book, Colored, Seated in Rear. Okay, Colored, Seated in Rear by Lee McCaskill. So this book, you guys, goes back and forth between Lee, okay, our guest, and Adeline, which is a childhood friend. It goes back and forth between their perspectives over one of the most diverse decades in their lives and in world history. The book title is in reference to, I don't know if you guys can see, but she said it's an actual photo of a sign that they used to put up in like public transportation, like buses.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. When I was growing up, there were signs everywhere, even like on water fountains saying, whites drink here, blacks drink here.
Gosh. You hear those stories, but I've never really talked to anybody that has experienced that. So your book really kind of digs in kind of how you were raised and how your friend was raised and your viewpoints. So here's one of the reviews that I thought really summed up the book, if you don't mind.
Okay.
You ready? It says, this book must be read. The spectrum of emotions felt and experiencing the journey of Lee and Adeline is vast and wide. I laughed and cried, got angry, cheered, prayed, and rejoiced. As a Black woman, having grown up a few generations behind the authors in the community where this story takes place, I read with the intention of wanting to know if this would be offensive and or degrading to African Americans. It is not. Lee and Adeline capture the essence of the human spirit. When I read that, I thought, okay, I feel like that brought it all together. Would you agree?
Yes. I was anxious for a Black woman or man to do a review, and I was so happy that it was her that did it, because she was actually Miss Black USA 1997.
Wow.
And she had sung at my mother's funeral.
Oh, my goodness.
And she called me after she read the book, crying. So it meant a lot to me that she took the time to write the review.
So this has created a stir. You've actually, you've taken a trip to South Africa recently. You were asked to do a TED Talk there.
Yes.
So it's created quite the stir. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there's a musical that will come out based on your book. Take us back, okay? Take us back to when this book got started, when and the time and the history, who you were and what was going on.
Well, it starts out when I was 4 years old, and it goes, and that would be 1960, until I was about 14, 1969. And Adeline and I would play together at the tobacco shed. I would beg to pick cotton. I thought it was fun. And then, of course, she thought it was drudgery. She hated it. And in between work and in between days of school, she and I would play in a little playhouse that we'd made in the woods. And I couldn't understand, well, she and I, neither one could understand why we couldn't go uptown and go to a movie together, or why we couldn't go have a ice cream soda at the drugstore together. The signs in the drugstore said that blacks had to eat out back. And I was just crushed. I couldn't understand why we could do everything together on the farm, but nothing downtown together.
You know, it's interesting. I read a portion. It said that you, at one point, because you wanted to be with your friend, you dressed up to be a black girl.
Yes.
I love that. I mean, I loved when I read that. I was like, oh my goodness.
We wanted to see an Elvis movie together. And so I literally got my dad's brown boot polish, put on a toboggan and mittens, and
did it work?
It worked.
What'd you do with your blonde hair?
Well, I put it under the toboggan, and I just browned my face. And so when the owner actually sold the tickets a lot, it was a very small town that we lived in, and he was usually the one at the ticket office. So as soon as he got distracted, we ran up the stairs and sat down. And of course, all the blacks would sit in the balcony, and all the white folks sat down below. And somehow, I guess somebody told him that I was up there, and another little white friend went with me. We were trembling the whole time because we knew we were going to be found out. I think I was around 10 years old. But eventually, I think it was Blue Hawaii that we'd gone to see, and we were so into the movie, we loved Elvis. And eventually, he came up and just put the flashlight right in my eyes, and he said, "Girl, what are you doing here?" And I started mouthing off something about the Civil Rights Act. I can't remember if it was 1964 or 1965, and he thought that my dad had put me up to it just to test him. And so he gave me a fit at first, but he let me stay. And he just kind of stayed upstairs with me and watched me. And when I came out, he said, "Don't you ever pull that again."
So to add to the dynamics for people that have not read the book yet, and of course, you know, we want them to read it, but your parents, they were taking care of these families.
Yes, my dad
They worked at your family's farm. Is that what I understood?
Right. My dad and grandfather had a big cotton and tobacco farm.
So here you really just saw them as another, like your friend, just another friend to play with, and, you know, go, you know, to the playhouse in the woods and go to the movies. But then there was this whole thing going on in our country where it was very discriminatory. So this book was written when, right here, this book? This year, last year?
It took us 2.5 years to write it, and it came out, I believe, in May of this year.
Okay.
So it's just recent.
So 2022, this happened in the 60s. Lee, fast forward, why did you write this book?
Well, originally, I was telling stories to my grandkids about when I grew up, like bedtime stories. They're avid readers, and so they like to read their own stories at bedtime. But they would say, "Tell me about when you were growing up. Tell me about when Daddy was growing up." And so I started telling them about growing up on the farm. And one day I was telling them about tobacco drags. And my oldest grandson said, "You can't be that old. A drag with no wheels." Even in the Roman Empire, they had wheels on their chariots. I didn't know why tobacco drags did not have wheels. So the next time I was in my hometown, I went to the library to research it because I was embarrassed that I didn't know why they didn't have any wheels. I walk in the library, and lo and behold, there was Adeline. She was the assistant to the librarian, who happened to be a cheerleader at the high school I had gone to. And So we started.
That gives me chills.
I know,
I didn't see that anywhere.
Right,
That
it
is
was
a great story.
It was like
It was
a
meant to
God
be.
wink.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, for sure, God wink.
And so we sat down and started telling stories, and the little kids started gathering around and asking us questions.
That
And
gives me chill bumps.
I was there all afternoon, and so the librarian said, "Y'all have got to write a book." And of course, they didn't have a clue. The black children didn't have a clue about segregation. The white children were just mesmerized by the stories because it was like the Little Rascals.
Sure.
And so the next day I took her out to eat at a restaurant, and it was a new restaurant, a little cafe, and the lady that ran the cafe said, "I'm calling the newspaper." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "Y'all got to write a book."
Oh my goodness.
And so it just evolved. And
very organically.
yes. And Adeline said, "I can't write." And I said, "But you can tell stories."
Yeah.
So talking to a tape recorder, and then I'll go home and polish it up and form the chapter for you. And that's how that came to be. And there's one chapter in there where it got so intense. It was so hard for her to relive the Negro repression that she went into a deep depression and could not go any further.
Wow.
Well, we have a lot in common. It's uncanny how much alike we are.
And I read that you ended up finding out like things literally had in common.
Right. I mean, it was like 50 years later, we just picked up our friendship right where we left it, and we're still very good friends. The book got us even closer. But we collect quotes. So I ended up putting a quote at the beginning of each chapter. So when she couldn't write that chapter, I just filled it with quotes.
Oh.
And I thought, well, maybe she'll heal. And when she sees how successful the book is, maybe she'll come back and write this chapter I'm leaving out. And sure enough, the hard copy is about to come out. And she has written that chapter. And then I got all these calls saying, in the book, your parents looked pretty racist. And when I knew your parents, you pretty much just knew them for 14 years, and then you moved to Florida. I know your parents, and they weren't racist. So when you rewrite the book, you're going to have to write a second edition. And they didn't know I was coming out with the hard copy, but they said, you've got to rewrite the book, and you've got to tell the story of what happened to your parents, because they weren't racist. So in the hard copy, in the epilogue, and that's why your copy has a bookmark,
I love that.
it tells about what happened to my mom and dad, because they were not racist when they died, and they changed. I'd like to think it was because of how determined I was when I was growing up not to be racist, and some of the things I said to them, but I don't think I can take the credit for that. They evolved, and they did some pretty remarkable things. And that black lady that you just quoted that became Miss USA, my mother helped her get there. Isn't that wild?
That's so one thing I took that you said about the book, you said children are taught prejudice, but should be taught unconditional love. And that's so true. Like, if you could really pull it all together, that would be the result we would all want, even today. And I felt, wow, how relevant your book is to today with all the unrest that we're having, with all the inner fighting that we're doing. I thought, my goodness, have we really progressed since the 1960s?
Right. And when I was asked to go to South Africa to do a TED Talk, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to have a platform. And I've got to narrow this down to like one little short platform, a short statement. And it was hard to condense that book to one statement.
Sure.
But what I came up with, I made T-shirts saying this. And everywhere I go, people go, I want that T-shirt. And it says, teach love with a big heart in the middle, not prejudice. So the next book signing I have, we're going to have T-shirts to go along with the book.
All right. Well, next time you're here, we're wearing those T-shirts. I love it. So, wow. So when you talk to your grandkids, what do you tell them that this book is about?
About how when I grew up, that we could not go to school with black children, and that we fought hard for them to be able to go with not just black children, but children of all races, because the school that they go to has Asians and blacks and It's a very mixed school. It's a Christian school. And that we were not allowed to eat with people of mixed race, and we were not able to go to the movies with them. And they look at me like, why? They don't understand that at all.
I do love that they're just, I mean, for lack of a better word, clueless. That
Right.
part is good.
Right.
You know, that.
And another thing that shocked me was that Black families come up to me and say, you know, they would be about my son's age, around 45, and say, I just read your book and thank you so much for writing it. I can't wait to meet Adeline and tell her thank you, because I know that was hard. And I'll say, well, I appreciate that, but tell me, did you not have you not heard any of these stories? Oh no, my parents won't talk to me about those days. I didn't realize, and you know, it makes sense now that I think about it, but I didn't realize that it was so painful for them to talk about it, that they weren't being told what segregation was like, bits and pieces. But that brought home what their parents have gone through and why they're so angry. And in researching it, some of the books that I read doing research for it made me angry. It made me ashamed to be white at times. I was very shocked, but it made me understand.
So the book that you wrote, Colored, Seated, and Rear, led you to South Africa trip, which, by the way, I thought this was great. If I could say, I was spying on you today on Facebook, and you said about your trip to Africa, you said you were on this Black Authors Matter tour to South Africa, you said no, they know how to do things first class and how to put on a party, and you put an extra E on there. Every time you turned around, there was good food, good wine, dancing, and sometimes a surprise band.
Yes.
How cool was that?
It was very cool. It's got to be
celebrated and just see a different side of that. Had to have been so exciting for you.
It was exciting, and it just was exciting to see another culture, but it was also eye-opening to see how far we've come. We sometimes take for granted how far we have come, but they're about 20 years behind us.
Well, and I thought it was very ironic. One of the things that you said to me before going on air, you said that you experienced discrimination on this trip. Tell us about that. So now you're on the other end of this.
Right. I've never experienced discrimination that I remember anywhere. And so it was, I think that God put me there, and I think it will deepen my talks to have actually felt it, because there were times I felt like a second-class citizen. Michael and I were two people in a group of about 30 Blacks. So we were definitely the minority. And so the hotels we stayed in, the restaurants we visited, the safari we went on, most of the time we were the only whites there. To give you an example, the first time I noticed it, I went in a gift shop, and I had about 4 items that I put down on the counter, and I reached in my purse to get the money to pay for it. And before I could even get the cash to the lady, a Black lady came up from behind me, and the cashier was Black, and she handed the lady her items and paid her. And I just bit my lip, didn't say anything. And I'm thinking, all I could think about was, oh my gosh, must be what they go through daily here in America.
Yeah.
And then that same evening, I experienced it at the restaurant with my stir fry I was waiting on, getting put on somebody else's plate. I mean, the list just went on. And I don't think Michael experienced it as much because, I mean, he's got a lot of muscle that I don't. But I could see how it could trigger the wrong white person.
Sure.
And I don't know if they were trying to trigger me, and they had no idea that I was an author that was there, that had written a book about racism. They had no idea. But
you know what, Lee? That's a God wink in a different way, isn't it?
It is.
I feel like he allowed you to see that, to give you more empathy for your writing and for that next step for you, whether it's your TED Talk or, in addition to the book that you're writing.
Yes.
So Wow, that's amazing. You guys, we need to go to a station break. We're talking with author Lee McCaskill. She wrote Colored, Seated in Rear. You can find it on Amazon and pretty much anywhere else you buy your books. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sunshine Furniture brightens up your day.
At Sunshine Furniture, our 35,000 square foot showroom is filled with the largest selection of in-stock coastal furniture on the Treasure Coast. Dining and bedroom sets, occasional tables, sofas, sleeper sofas, love seats, and chairs, including lots of slipcover styles from Universal, Four Seasons, and Capri. We also have a gallery of Tommy Bahama and Lexington with styles designed for a relaxed approach to the finer things in life. We're having a fall sale with lots of great markdowns, including all pictures, lamps, and accessories half price. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in Vero Beach next to Planet Fitness. Family owned and operated since 1991. Don't forget to visit our outlet and closeout store directly across the street and visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Sunshine Furniture, the best in every way. Have a sunshine day.
Who's got time to clean? When you need it clean, call Germ Wizards LLC. Using the most up-to-date equipment, Germ Wizards pays strict attention to detail. They make dust disappear. Whether you need your office to sparkle, your home to shine, or you want to give someone a great gift, hire the Germ Wizards. It's easy to get a quote online. There's even an online portal to discuss details directly with your cleaning professional. Visit GermWizardsLLC.com. Make dust disappear with Germ Wizards.
You can trust Sandpiper Pest Control, serving Indian River, St. Lucie, and Brevard. Certified by the state of Florida to treat homes, lawns, and termites. Fully licensed and insured. Priced right, effective, and friendly.
Hi, this is Joel, the owner of Sandpiper Pest Control. Sandpiper can solve your pest issues. No contracts to sign, just results.
Call for a free estimate, 772-589-0204. Sandpiper Pest Control, a member of the iTex trading community. Your iTex dollars are welcome.
Hey guys, welcome back to Beauty and the Beach Radio. We want to thank Dale Sorensen Real Estate for always making sure we're on air. They make sure that we are promoting who's beautifying Vero Beach. So you can find Dale Sorensen Real Estate at 772-231-4712 or sorensenrealestate.com. Also, Varietals and More, thank you so much. They always provide beverages for our radio guests. And today I told them that we have an author on the show today, and they brought for us a cab that is called Typesetter. How appropriate is that? Is it good, Lee? Do you like it? It is good.
It's very good.
It's very good. It's a cab from Napa. So yes, go get yourself a bottle of Typesetter from Varietals, and make sure you go on Amazon or where you buy your favorite books. Make sure you buy Colored, Seated in Rear. Also, I just want to say this is her third book, I believe. Another one she has out is a cookbook, and then this one is called Belly Busters Tips, which has got my attention. So definitely check her books out. Lee, you've got a Facebook if people want to follow you, find out what's going on. If you've got book signings, which you said are coming up in Vero Beach, where can they find you on social media?
It's on Facebook at author N. Lee McCaskill.
Okay, very good. We're going to wrap it up. And by the way, I was talking to you off air. The end of this book seems pretty interesting and gets kind of intricate. You actually do some DNA research. And there was a point that you said that you weren't sure if your friend would still be your friend after some things that you found out. So I definitely encourage people to read this book. It sounds like, there's some twists in there that you don't expect.
Yes. She kept telling me that one reason she didn't get married is all the men had left her great-grandmother, her grandmother, and her mother. And that she didn't, if she was going to have a man leave her, she'd just rather not get married.
Aww.
And that was part of the truth. There's something else I don't want to give away in the book, but that was one big reason. And she kept talking all the time about how her, especially her grandmother, how much it hurt her that her grandfather had left her with 5 children. And she talked about it so much, it was just imprinted on my mind. And so I had her do her ancestry, and I had recently done mine and done a lot of research on it. And I thought, I'm going to find him. I'm going to find, they didn't know what happened to him. So I thought, I'm just going to find him. And he had a very common name, Joe Jackson. But I kept researching and found him.
All right.
So you'll have to read the book to find out what happened.
Read the book to find out. You guys were talking Colored, Seated, and Rear by Lee McCaskill. Lee, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, guys.